The unit I coordinate is a core unit in our Masters of English Studies. Approaches to Critical Reading is a core unit for all our Masters students because it offers essential training in literary analysis and criticism. In this unit, you will learn to think critically about the criteria you use to appreciate novels, poems, plays, and all kinds of literary texts. You will encounter some of the most important and influential works of literary criticism from the mid-19th century to the present. Actually, we begin a little earlier, with Alexander Pope's Essay on Criticism from 1711, a work that sets the tone for how 19th century critics such as Matthew Arnold imagined the function of literary criticism in our society. The 20th century saw some really fascinating, sometimes revolutionary changes to critical reading practices and notions of what the text can do. We explore attempts to find objective criteria for reading that originated in Russian formalism, which fed into Anglo-American movements such as New Criticism, a method of textual analysis that was so influential that you probably learned it at school without even knowing it. Were you aware of its aesthetic and ideological assumptions? We study the rise of structuralism and post-structuralism with its famous death of the author, of narratology, that is, the scientific study of narrative types, and myth criticism, where we think about the mythological dimensions to literature. Then, when we turn to reader response theory, you will be challenged to consider where the meaning of a text actually resides. How much of your own experience, your own background, and your own reading shapes the text that emerges when you read. We even see what cognitive scientists have to say about this process and how they classify our emotional response to texts. When you take this course, you will study those theories of reading that try to establish rules or criteria for how to evaluate a work. But you will also see that criticism can do something more. You will encounter theorists who use literature to critique our society, to see how its literature can be a force for oppression, and how criticism might even bring about change. We examine how theories of power and ideology can shape the way one reads a text. Do we see a Marxist image of society and capital playing out before our eyes? Or is there something more going on than an economic analysis can provide? You will encounter key texts in gender and sexuality studies, from Virginia Woolf to Eve Sedgwick. We explore theories of race and post-colonialism, viewing literary texts from perspectives that see Orientalism, racism, and Indigenous issues. We think about the greatest challenges to human life today when we ask how we may read from an eco-critical perspective, about the nature of the human-animal relationship, and even how notions of the Anthropocene and the post-human can impact our ways of reading and our appreciation of aesthetic objects. Finally, we turn the mirror on ourselves and consider the limitations of this very business of criticism. When we encounter theories of post-critique, we ask ourselves, are we too violent, too aggressive in our dissection of literature, our need to rationalise this whole process? Are there kinder, more productive, even more reparative ways of reading? By taking this course, you will acquire the tools to analyse texts on a deep level. You will develop an informed, critical perspective on your own reading practice and the practices of others. And most of all, you'll encounter some of the foremost theories of reading and writing in the 20th century. You can take these skills with you when you study other courses, when you teach students of your own, or when you simply want to better appreciate the beauty of literature. One thing I like most about this course is advocating for so many different critical methods. I've got no fixed agenda, so I love giving each of these theories their best chance to convince us of why they might be the best way to read. Some people say that analysing literature takes the fun out of it, but for me it's the opposite. The more I think about the possibilities of a text's meaning, the more I understand the author's craft, the more I'm excited by literature. So for me, talking seriously about these issues with students is really enjoyable. I love most of all the way students can make me see things differently, through their eyes. And of course, I love to see them really getting a new concept for the first time.